On Christmas night, I stood frozen in the doorway while 200 relatives turned to stare at me, silent, expectant, like I had just walked into my own execution. My mother held my framed photos in her hands and, without blinking, smashed them against the marble floor. My father unfolded a crisp sheet of paper, cleared his throat, and said loudly enough for the chandeliers to vibrate, "This is your bill. Every cent we wasted raising you. $248,000. Pay it or never contact us again." The room exhaled at once. A slow, cold wave rolled through my chest. My name is Alyssa Warren, I'm 29, and until that night, I believed my family's cruelty had limits. I was wrong. I remember the smell of cinnamon candles mixing with a sharp scent of broken glass. My sister, Mia, strutted toward me in her glittering red dress, snatched my car keys from the table, and said with a smirk that sliced deeper than any knife, "Dad already transferred the title to me. You don't need it anymore." Relatives whispered, some amused, some uncomfortable, none brave enough to speak up. I felt my throat tighten, not with tears, but with something colder, recognition. They weren't punishing me for anything I'd done. They were punishing me for who I refused to become, obedient, silent, grateful for crumbs. Then something even darker unfolded. My father motioned toward the back of the hall. My boss, my actual boss, stepped forward in a tailored coat. He wouldn't look me in the eye. "Alyssa," he said quietly, "your parents told me everything. I'm letting you go. Effective immediately." Laughter erupted at the far table. Someone muttered, "Finally, she's getting what she deserves." The lights felt hotter, harsher. My skin felt too tight. I didn't defend myself. Didn't scream. Didn't crumble. The silence was my dignity. The last thing they hadn't stolen. My mom leaned in, voice dripping with victory. "Consider this a lesson. If you walk out tonight, don't come back." So I walked. Straight out of their house, their expectations, and their orchestrated humiliation. 4 days later, my phone started buzzing relentlessly. 50 missed calls a day. From the same family who'd thrown me away like trash. And on the 5th day, one voicemail changed everything. A trembling voice whispering, "Alyssa, it's your sister. Something is wrong." Mia never called me unless she needed something, so hearing her shaky voice whisper, "Alyssa, something is wrong," felt like a ghost brushing against my ear. I didn't call back. Not yet. I just sat on the edge of my bed in my tiny studio apartment, the place I had dragged myself to after being fired, humiliated, and stripped of everything, and listened to that voicemail again. Her breathing was uneven, choked. "Alyssa, please. Call me back. They won't tell me anything." They? My parents? Those same people who had paraded my shame like entertainment? Who ripped my photos off the wall as if erasing me might rewrite their own failures. I tossed my phone aside, but it buzzed again. 52nd call of the day. I let it ring out, my anger thick and steady. They didn't want me 4 days ago. Why now? But as the night settled, the memories clawed their way back. Growing up, our family wasn't cruel in the loud, chaotic way. It was quiet cruelty, polished, rehearsed. My parents were the type who smiled wide for Christmas photos and then shredded you behind closed doors for blinking wrong. My father hated imperfections. My mother hated disobedience. And Mia? She adapted. She became their golden child, their echo. Pretty. Compliant. Their trophy. I was the opposite. Too independent, too outspoken, too unwilling to shape myself into something decorative. They tolerated me until the night they weaponized Christmas dinner. 200 relatives. My name on everyone's tongue. My life dismantled in under 20 minutes. But what they didn't realize was this. While they raised Mia to obey, they raised me to survive. That night, I replayed every moment of that humiliation. My mom smashing my photos, my dad announcing my bill, my boss firing me in front of strangers. And underneath the sting, something new was forming. A question. Why were they suddenly desperate? Relatives don't change overnight. Abusers don't suddenly grow remorse. No, something had happened. Something big enough to crack their proud facade. By morning, I made myself a cup of cheap instant coffee, sat on the floor with a blanket wrapped around me, and opened my phone. One new voicemail. Not Mia this time. My father. His voice tight, urgent, almost frightened. Alyssa, you need to come home. It's about the estate. We need to talk. He paused, something I had never heard in his voice before. Alyssa, please. The word please from him was a warning, not a request. And I felt it. Something was unraveling. I didn't respond immediately. I let my father's pleas sit in the air like a foreign object. That man had never begged for anything, not for me, not from anyone. He was a general, not a parent. A commander, not a caregiver. Hearing desperation in his voice felt unnatural, like watching a mountain tremble. But by noon, after 3 unanswered calls, another voicemail arrived. This time from someone I hadn't heard from in years. My Aunt Caroline, the only relative who ever treated me like a human. Alyssa, sweetheart, she whispered quickly, her voice quivering. They're in trouble. Serious trouble. And they need you. Your father won't tell the whole truth, but please call me back. It's about the inheritance. Inheritance? My family spent decades reminding me I had none. For a moment, confusion cracked the anger inside me. I paced my small apartment, fingers tapping my thighs, heart beating too fast. Something was happening behind those mansion walls, something they couldn't spin or hide with their usual manipulation. Still, after everything they'd done, why should I care? I didn't owe them kindness. I didn't owe them comfort. I didn't owe them salvation from whatever disaster they'd created. I owed them nothing. But I did owe something to myself: clarity, closure, answers. So I called Mia. She picked up instantly. Alyssa? Oh, thank God. Listen, Mom and Dad. Her voice cracked in a way I'd never heard. Mia lived her whole life polished, poised, perfect. Tonight, she sounded like a child whose world was collapsing. What happened? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. She inhaled shakily. I don't know exactly. But Dad's been locked in his study for 2 days. Mom keeps crying, and people keep showing up at the door. Lawyers, bankers, people I've never seen before. Every time I ask what's going on, Dad yells at me to stay out of it. And why? I ask slowly. Do they suddenly want me? Mia hesitated. Alyssa, Dad said something about you being the only one who can fix this. My laugh was sharp, disbelieving. They fired me.
Disowned me.
Humiliated me in front of our entire bloodline. And now I'm their solution. Alyssa, she whispered. Please. They're terrified. Terrified. The words settled deep in my chest. My parents weren't afraid of anything. So whatever this was, it was bigger than humiliation, bigger than control. Something catastrophic was coming. And somehow I was at the center of it. I didn't decide to go back out of love. I went back because something in my gut whispered the truth. People like my parents only call the child they disowned when they're drowning. Their mansion sat on the hill like a frostbitten monument, silent, dark, uninviting. On Christmas, it had been glowing, loud, full of 200 people watching my humiliation like a festival. Now its windows were black. Even the wreath on the door looked wilted. I stepped inside without knocking. The air was thick, like grief, like panic, like something had rotted beneath the polished floorboards. The housekeeper glanced at me with wide eyes but didn't speak. She just pointed upstairs. I found my mother first. She sat on the floor of the hallway, mascara streaked, hair undone, clutching one of the very same photos she had ripped off the wall 4 days ago. She looked small. I had never seen her small. Alyssa, she breathed, as if I were a hallucination. You came? I didn't come for you, I said quietly. Where's Dad? Her lips trembled. She pointed toward the study. I walked past her. Inside the study, my father stood at his desk, surrounded by open folders, scattered papers, and 3 thick envelopes stamped with a bank's logo. His posture, usually rigid and superior, was hunched. He lifted his eyes, and for the first time in my life, he looked scared of me. Alyssa. A pause. We need to talk. I crossed my arms. Then talk. He swallowed hard. Our accounts, the estate, everything is being challenged. There are legal claims on assets we thought were secure. In plain English, I said flatly. We're being sued, he snapped. Then softer, by your grandfather's lawyers. That hit like a slap. My grandfather's been dead for 7 years. Yes, he said, looking away. But he left certain conditions. And we violated them.
We.
Meaning he. Meaning my parents. I stepped closer. What conditions? He hesitated, rubbing his forehead. He left a large portion of the estate in a trust, with a clause. It activates if one of my children is wrongfully cut off. And his voice cracked. That child was you. The room tilted. So the moment you disowned me publicly, I whispered, you triggered the clause. He nodded. My mother appeared behind me in the doorway, shaking. Alyssa, if we don't fix this. A loud knock thundered through the house. 3 sharp, authoritative bangs. My father's face drained of color. They're here. The knocking didn't stop. 3 more booming hits that echoed through the mansion like warning shots. My father froze. My mother whimpered. Mia clutched the banister with white knuckles as I walked past them all and headed downstairs. Because suddenly, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the powerless one in this house. I was the trigger, the claws, the reason their empire was collapsing. And they knew it. When I reached the foyer, 2 men in tailored coats and a woman carrying a briefcase stepped inside the moment I opened the door. They didn't ask permission. They didn't greet my parents. They walked in like owners reclaiming property. The woman's eyes landed on me. You must be Alyssa Warren. Her tone was calm, respectful. Nothing like the way my own family spoke to me. Yes, I said. I am. Behind me, my father descended the stairs, trying to regain control. There's no need for intimidation, he barked. We're handling it. The woman didn't even look at him. Mr. Warren, you've had 7 years to handle it. Instead, you violated every stipulation of a federally protected trust. We are here to enforce your father's wishes. My father's jaw tightened. My mother gripped his arm, trembling. What exactly? I asked evenly. Did my grandfather leave? The woman opened her briefcase, pulled out a thick binder, and placed it gently into my hands. Everything he owned, she said. With the exception of the primary residence, which goes to your mother. The rest of the estate, liquid accounts, investments, properties, business shares, and personal assets, were placed in a trust for you. Under one condition. My heart hammered. I flipped to the first page. The beneficiary must not be estranged, disowned, or publicly humiliated by her guardians. Any act of severe family rejection immediately transfers control of the estate to the beneficiary.
My mother gasped.
My father swayed as if someone had kicked his knees out. So, I said slowly, when they dragged 200 people into a room to humiliate me, the lawyer nodded. They surrendered everything, and the court will finalize full transfer within 10 days. Silence. Power washed through me like heat after a long winter. For the first time, my parents needed me. And that's when the revenge took shape. Not loud, not petty, not violent.
No.
Something colder, cleaner, and far more devastating. My plan was simple. I would help them, but not the way they hoped. I'd help them understand exactly what it feels like to lose everything. Starting now that I didn't confront them. Not yet. Real revenge isn't noise. It's patience. It's watching the people who once controlled every inch of your life suddenly scramble to survive without your permission. The lawyers left after handing me the documents, and the house fell into a fearful silence. My father kept wiping his palms on his pants, a tic I had never seen. My mother stood behind him like a fragile shadow. Mia hovered near the stairs, pale and confused. I closed the binder, held it against my chest, and said calmly, "Sit down. All of you." They obeyed. My God, they obeyed. My father cleared his throat, trying to regain authority. "Alyssa, we can negotiate something. We can figure out a solution that protects the family name." I smiled, small and sharp. Family name? You destroyed mine 4 days ago. He flinched. I took a seat across from them, crossing my legs with deliberate ease. Let's talk about what happens next. My mother reached out, voice trembling. Sweetheart, we made a mistake. You made a spectacle, I corrected. You turned a holiday into a public execution. You fired me, took my car, erased my existence in front of 200 people. And now that Grandpa's trust says I inherit everything, suddenly I matter? Their silence was my answer. I opened the binder again. The trust states I gain full authority over asset management during the transition period. I let that hang in the air. Translation. For the next 10 days, I control their lives. My father leaned forward. Alyssa, what do you want? There it was. The question I had waited my entire life to hear. I want transparency, I said. Full access to the financial accounts. Every loan, every liability, every hidden mess. My father stiffened. There's no need for. There is, I interrupted. Because you didn't just disown me. You disqualified yourself. Legally and financially. Then I turned to my mother. You ripped my photos off the wall. So, I want them restored. Every frame. Every shelf. She swallowed hard. Of course. And Mia, I said gently, my car? Her eyes widened. Alyssa, I didn't mean Dad made me. I'm sure he did, I said. But you're returning it today. A soft knock broke the tension. The housekeeper peeked in. Miss Alyssa, the press is outside. They're asking about the estate lawsuit. My father went white. My mother grabbed his arm. And I stood up. Time for phase 2. The public part of their downfall. The moment I stepped onto the porch, camera flashes exploded like fireworks. Reporters crowded the front lawn, microphones raised, shouting questions that sliced through the cold air. Ms. Warren, is it true you're the sole inheritor of the Warren estate? Did your parents illegally violate a protected trust? Sources say you were publicly disowned. Can you confirm? Are you planning to press charges? Behind me, I could feel my parents trembling. The same people who once paraded me like an embarrassment were now shrinking behind my shadow. I lifted a hand, and the reporters quieted. My voice was calm, steady, practiced by a lifetime of swallowing pain. I can confirm, I said, that my grandfather's trust was violated. I can also confirm that the clause has been triggered. Beyond that, I am cooperating fully with the legal process. A chorus of whispers rippled through the crowd. My father rushed forward, voice shaking. Alyssa, we don't need to involve the media. But I simply turned, meeting his eyes with an icy stillness he couldn't penetrate. You involved the public first, I reminded him. Christmas? 200 relatives? Announcing my bill? Firing me in front of a crowd. I paused. This is just the fallout of your choices. The reporters erupted again. I didn't answer further. Instead, I stepped off the porch, signaling the briefest end to the statement. Behind me, the door slammed shut. Inside, chaos exploded. My father paced in frantic loops. My mother sobbed into her hands. Mia stood still, her voice barely above a whisper. Alyssa, what happens now? I looked at all of them, really looked. For the first time, they felt small, breakable. Human. Fallout, I said quietly. This is what it looks like. My father rounded on me. You're doing this on purpose. You're humiliating us. My jaw tightened. You humiliated me. And now you're just experiencing balance. He slammed his fist on the table. We can lose everything. You already did, I replied. The day you chose to destroy your own daughter. My mother stepped forward, voice cracking. Alyssa, we were wrong.
We know that.
We didn't think. You didn't think I mattered, I said. But legally? Financially? Your entire world now